Hey, digital imaging. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be making some patterns. We're going to be making some seamless patterns too as well. So there's a difference between just a normal pattern and then like a seamless pattern. A normal pattern is where you can kind of see the edges where the pattern starts and stops. And then a seamless pattern is where you can see you don't see where the edges start and stop on the pattern here, okay? So I've got my document open in here, and I've kind of got mine a little bit started. You can kind of see what I've got here. And so I'm going to be making some patterns here to kind of fill in some of these other shapes and stuff like that for mine here. And then for my layers, I've got two different layers here. I've got my background layer, which has this polka dot pattern here on it, and I've just locked that. That way I don't select this by accident. And then I've got my other layer here with all my other pieces on it. Looks like I made a mistake here, and all that other stuff is not on that layer like it should be. But that's okay. I'm going to select that. I'm going to hold Shift, delete this, and then I'm going to lock this background layer. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to Edit. I'm going to go to Paste in Place, and that's going to put this on this layer here, and then that should be right. Yeah, okay, so that's good. Okay, so you've got these different boxes here. This is where your patterns are going to go. And then I've got some directions here for how to make your seamless pattern. And then these boxes are all 2 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to show you how you can make some patterns here. So I'm going to make some kind of simple pattern, simple seamless pattern here. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to do duplicate. And we're going to make a seamless pattern here. So I'm going to grab a circle. And I'm just going to make a perfect circle. That's a gross color. So I'm going to change my color here and do something kind of like that here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to just start off with centering this circle onto our square here. So I've got my align and distribute, and I've got this on last selected here. And then I'm going to use this to make my pattern. We're going to do this kind of simple pattern here, which is what I've got for the background for this here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to select this, and then first thing you want to do is you want to set up your steps here. So I'm going to go up to Preferences. My preferences are inside Inkscape here, but if your preferences are going to be in Edit down towards the bottom here if you're using a Windows. So I'm going to go to Preferences, and then you're just going to look something like this. I'm going to go to Behavior, and then I'm going to go to Steps, and then here we're going to change our arrow keys. So usually your arrow keys are set up to move it by pixels. We're going to set this up so that it moves it by 1 inches here. So you want to make sure that you have inches selected, and then you want to make sure that you put in 1 inch here. So that way every time I use my arrows key, it's going to move it over 1 inch here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to move this over along the edge here. What we're going to do is we're going to make this our seamless pattern so that when it tiles this, it's going to tile this, and where this goes, where this is on the edge, the next pattern will go off the edge. So let me kind of show you what that would look like. It'll look like something like this, but Inkscape will do it, and it'll do it like much seamlessly and much quicker than how I do it. So I'm just going to move this over to the edge here. So I'm going to press on my left key. Okay, I'm going to do duplicate, and then I'm going to move this over to the right, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to make another duplicate, and I'm just going to move this to the center, and then I'm going to move up one arrow here, duplicate, and then I'm going to move this down like that here. I'm also going to put a circle here in the middle, so I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm just going to kind of shrink this guy down here like that. Okay, so now all these circles here are midway through on and off the circle here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into my pattern here. So I'm going to duplicate my square. So I'm going to press Control D, and then I'm going to select everything. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to Object, Clip, and Set, and we're going to make this is a clipping mask. So I'm going to go Object, Clip, and Set. Okay, and now I want to fill this here. So I'm going to go to Pattern, and then select pattern here. So I'm going to go to Edit, and then Object, Pattern, and Objects to Pattern here. Okay, and then I should be able to see this inside my fill here, and so that's going to be this pattern here. So if I make like a new shape, it should be able to fill that. So I'm going to click on this part, and then there's my pattern right there. There's not a way for you to name these, but usually it'll show it as a number here. So these are all the patterns that I've kind of selected. So if I want to give one of my objects a pattern here, so maybe I want to fill in this vase with this pattern that I just made, I can do that. Now, right now the scale is the same scale as my original pattern here. There's a way where you can change that. So if I go to my nodes tool, I can, and I've got my object selected, and this is where it gets kind of tricky because it's going to kind of put it in different places here. So right now, I've got this selected. If I grab this little circle here, so it's on my original pattern, if I grab that, I can rotate this, and imagine kind of rotating it on an axis here. So that'll rotate my pattern. I can kind of change the orientation here. And then if I grab this square, I can go in and out, and that'll change the scaling of my pattern as well. So you see it's also kind of like stretching it. So it's no longer like circles. These are like turning into little ovals here. And I kind of like that, just like that. I can also grab this and kind of move my pattern too if I grab this little X here. So the circle rotates my pattern. The square will change the scale of my pattern and also kind of stretch it a little bit. So you can see there, it's even like, that's kind of wild. It'll kind of stretch it there. And if I kind of bring this back to my original circle there, I'll turn that into that pattern there. I actually kind of liked it when it was the ovals. I thought that was kind of cool. So it'll also kind of stretch that as well. And then I can kind of move this onto that here. Okay. You'll notice that you can't, like, you also notice that once you've made this pattern, you can't change the colors or anything like that. So I can't like change these circles from red to blue. It only stays kind of the same color that I've got selected. And then I'm actually going to just kind of give this sort of dark blue background like that. Okay. Okay. Let's make a more complex pattern here. So I've got this flower that I drew out. This is kind of my inspiration here. I also have like some other patterns here that I'm using as kind of like my inspiration for when I make some of my other patterns here. Okay, so we're gonna make kind of a more complicated one. So I'm going to grab another square here. I'm gonna duplicate, and then I'm going to just bring that over here. And then I'm going to grab this piece here. So I've got this flower that I made, and I think I grouped this. Yeah, I grouped that all together here. So I'm just going to shrink this down to try to get kind of the scaling that I want here. And let me move this to the back like that. Okay, I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hold the control key and kind of shrink this down a little bit. And then same thing, to start off in the middle, I'm going to select both my shapes here and then just center this along the middle. And then same thing as before, I can move this over like that. I'm going to duplicate, move this over like that. Okay, I'm going to make another duplicate, and then I'm going to move this over. I'm going to go up one and then duplicate and go down one here. The other thing you can do is you can also put this in the corner too. So like if I want to put this in the corner, I could do that as well. I'm actually just going to keep it like this here and do that. If I wanted to change some of these colors, I can. So if I want to ungroup this, you know, I can change the colors. Maybe I want to have these maybe I want to do kind of like orange petals here, and then maybe do kind of like a different, let's see, maybe like a yellow could be kind of nice for that. Okay, and then I'll select both these and kind of shrink these down like that. Okay, I could also rotate this. That could be kind of cool. If I wanted to move some of these, maybe I want to move, you know, some of these kind of like off to the side here and put those underneath. Whoops. Okay, and then maybe I want to kind of change the scale like that. I can do something kind of like that. They're doing construction here, so that's what that really loud noise is. Okay, these are kind of like overlapping, which is kind of cool. I'm trying to make these so that they're not quite centered. Whoops. So they're a little bit off like that. Okay, I can use that, same thing as before. I'm going to select my background, Control D, select everything in here, Object, Clip, Set, and then I can go to Object, pattern, and then objects to pattern here. Okay. So then now I can use that. So maybe I want to use that flower pattern here for like my tablecloth on here, and do that. Getting a little wild here. Okay. So what I want you to do is kind of play around with making some different patterns and stuff like that, and then when you have your patterns, you can put your patterns over here like this. So these are going to be my patterns. I'll put these over here. Let's just get that guy out of the way. Okay, and maybe I want to make some other patterns here. So let's try like some different colors. For this, maybe I want to do, what kind of colors can we do here? Maybe I want to do like some greens. Yeah, maybe I'll do some greens. And I'll do kind of like a light green for this. And I'll use that for some other colors. So I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to bump this over like that. Whoops. I want to redo. Okay. I'm going to make a duplicate, and then put this over here like that. Where it's going on, it's coming off here. I'm going to move this up like this. Like that. And then duplicate and bring this down. And then I'm just kind of readjusting as I kind of put this stuff in here. Okay, I'll make another duplicate. I'm just going to rotate this guy so he's at kind of like a different orientation. And then maybe I'll make him like a little bit bigger here, change the scale a little bit. Okay, I'll duplicate this. Okay, put this here. I want to kind of bump this over here like that. And then where this one is going off, it needs to be going on the other side here. So maybe I'll change this scale and just kind of bring this down a little bit like that. Okay. And then I'm going to add a couple more guys here. Okay. And then let's add one more just kind of coming off the edge here. What I'm also doing is I'm kind of like looking at where I've got some space down here at the bottom, so that I know where to put that here. Okay. And then I'll duplicate, and then whoops, and bring that down like that. Okay. All right. And then same thing as before. I'll duplicate this, select everything, object, clip, set, make our clipping mask. And then I'll go to object, pattern, objects to pattern. Okay. And also, so it highlighted this, so this is going to be 61649 here. And I'll put this here. And then maybe I want to use this for like my leaves here. Could be kind of fun and sort of quirky here. So yep, like that. And I'm going to just change the scale and just make that a little bit smaller here. So I'm going to bring that down and kind of change the scale like that. Okay. Okay, so you're making 8 different patterns here, and you can make those for your patterns here. And then other thing you can do, you can fill in some of these if you'd like here. But do this vase here. You could do the leaves. You could do the leaves on here if you'd like. I also like adding like a little picture. I use my cats here for my avatar. If I want to make like a little scene here, maybe I want to do, kind of like a, maybe I'll make the sun kind of rising here. And let's like grab some yellow. I'm just going to grab this yellow and kind of just tie it all in together here. I'll rotate this like that. And then I'm just going to make a copy of this, and I'm actually going to use the clipping mask here. So I'll do Control D. That should have made a copy. Yeah, that did. I'm not for sure why it's not at the top here. Let's do this. This should be farther down. Let's just move this down here. Okay, I'm not really for sure what's going on, but that's okay. We'll do Object, Clip, Set, and then I'll bring that here, and let's just bring this to the top of the stack there. And there's our sun kind of rising. If I wanted to add some other stuff to the outside, I can here. Okay, so be creative. You can make some more simple patterns or make some more complex patterns, like what I've done here, and then kind of have some fun with it. You know, play around with some different colors, some different pattern types here, and then you can use some of these different patterns that you made for your still life object here. Okay, all right.